Welcome into Locked On Phillies. The Phils hang an 11 spot on the Cincinnati Reds, and they can go for the sweep in today's matinee. We'll talk about the recap and the preview on today's Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Been talking Phils baseball for years, over on 97.5 on the radio. I've been on NBC Sports Philadelphia to talk the Phils a couple times on the TV side. I'm happy to be here with you as your host of Locked On Phillies. And I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And what a day it was yesterday for the Philadelphia Phillies. They get their 10,000th win in franchise history. We'll talk about that in the final segment of today's show and the historic part of the 10,000th win for this franchise. So we'll discuss that, but we'll talk specifically about this singular win right now, which was an 11-4 win over the Cincinnati Reds. And the offense absolutely exploded. TJ Zeuch was the starter for the Cincinnati Reds, and you kind of knew that the Phillies had the advantage against him, especially with Kyle Gibson on the mound. But there was a little bit of a question mark in the third inning, and we have some injury news that we have to update you on. I did an injury update earlier this week, and well, there's more to talk about after this game. Let's go through the summary of what happened in this game. First two innings were quiet. And then in the third inning, Derek Hall broke the Phillies' streak of 6 games without a home run, their longest since like 2007, I think. And Derek Hall homered to left field, went the opposite way, 380 feet, just barely snuck out. And then next batter, Nick Castellanos, also homered to left, his further 395 feet. So it was deep left center, just like that infamous Tom Brenneman call. But that's how the Phillies got on the board, and it was 2-0 in the third. Now, the Reds would not go away, though. Fraley homered to right field, scoring Friedel, a 2-run home run just next up in the bottom of the third. And then Jonathan India hit a home run to right center in the third to make it 3-2. But that wasn't the only issue. That home run by Jonathan India barely snuck out. And as it was going out over the wall, it was a low liner almost, Brandon Marsh had a dead run, tried to jump up and make a play on the ball. He came down awkwardly. It looked like it could have been a knee or an ankle, but he had a lower body injury of some sort that had him writhing on the ground in pain. He looked like he was seriously injured. Immediately, Nick Castellanos, who was out there with him, called for the trainers to come out. There was urgency for the trainers to get out there and check on him. They rolled him over on his back to go ahead and do some tests, and they were testing the knee, they were testing the calf and the lower leg and everything like that. Not sure what the injury is yet. We have not heard, but it seemed to be a rather serious one. Now, Marsh was able to walk off the field under his own power. That being said, when Carson Wentz tore his ACL in that 2017 Super Bowl run for the Philadelphia Eagles, which all Philadelphia sports fans should remember, yeah, he walked off the field. He played another snap, threw a touchdown against the Los Angeles Rams, and then walked off the field under his own power. So walking off the field does not necessarily mean there's not a serious injury. It just means it could have certainly been worse. So glad that Marsh was able to get up and walk off. He did not return to the game. Matt Vierling went into center field from left, and Nick Maton ended up playing left field. And Maton made a couple of nice plays out in left field, actually, including a diving catch later on in the game. But those 3 runs scored by Cincinnati were a great answer in the bottom of the third for them. And the Phillies did what I tell you the Phillies do. Great teams, they answer when runs are scored against them. The Phillies have done it so well when they've been hot this year. And following the bottom of the third, Rhys Hoskins hit a 2-out, 3-run homer in the top of the fourth to make it a 5-3 game, and the floodgates were kind of open at that point. Matt Vierling hit a sacrifice fly with the bases loaded in the top of the fifth to score Nick Castellanos. And then in the top of the eighth, well, it was Hoskins again, a home run 422 feet to dead center that he absolutely mashed, scored Garrett Stubbs, scored himself, 8-3 ball game after that one. And just for good measure, that very same Garrett Stubbs homered to right field in the top of the ninth inning. It was 11-3 at that point, and the Phillies very much in control of that one. The Cincinnati Reds actually went to a position player on the mound in the top of the ninth to get the final 2 outs there. And then in the bottom of the ninth, the Reds got 1 run back off of Nick Nelson, who had been the victim of some unfortunate bloop hits. He wasn't really giving up tough contact, just a couple of unlucky bloops. But that 4th run was the only one that the Cincinnati Reds would get, and it was still an 11-4 victory for your Philadelphia Phillies. An offensive explosion. And hey, if you listened to yesterday's episode, I said this feels like what is coming for the Philadelphia Phillies. You kind of felt that this was the opportunity for the Phillies to break out against a TJ Zoik pitcher who had only like 50-some career innings. He had only had 4 innings so far this season, and the Mets had beaten them 10-2 in that game. Well, now his 2 starts are a 10-2 loss to the Mets and an 11-4 loss to the Phillies. Not ideal for him, but great for your Philadelphia Phillies. Speaking of great for your Philadelphia Phillies, Kyle Gibson, who started this game for the Phillies, was awesome on the mound for them. He started off kind of rough, but when you look at the final stat line, those 3 runs given up in the 3rd inning, well, they were the only 3 runs. He only gave up 6 hits in 6 innings worth of work, no walks, and he struck out 11. It's tied for his career high in strikeouts. 11 is. It's the 2nd most by any Phillies pitcher this year. So Aaron Nola has 3 games of 10 strikeouts. Zach Wheeler has 1 game with 10 strikeouts. Then it's Kyle Gibson with 11 strikeouts yesterday. And believe it or not, Zach Eflin against the Los Angeles Dodgers back in May had a 12 strikeout game. Now, unfortunately for Kyle Gibson, 2 of those 6 hits were home runs. One of them a 2-run shot, so that's where the 3 runs come from. But he was dominant. His slider was as good as I've ever seen it. He was using the pitch a lot. He ended up with 92 pitches, which is a solid workload, but a great game by Kyle Gibson, who's been exceptional so far in the second half and really this year pretty much in general for the Phillies. Not as consistent as guys like Wheeler or Nola, but he's been really, really good when called upon. So with your pitching rotation of Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, Gibson, Syndergaard, yeah, you're feeling pretty good about that in the regular season if you're the Phillies right now. You'll probably shorten that rotation when you get to the playoffs. A 3-game series in the wild card the wild card playoff series, I mean. So with that 3-game series, you only need 3 starters. And I'd imagine right now it'll be Wheeler, Nola, Suarez. But hey, Gibson's proving that he's good enough if need be. He can throw there. And Syndergaard is proving that he can win you games in the regular season, which is all you really need him to do. It's good news all around for the Phillies. And then the bullpen, Connor Brogdon, had a scoreless inning with a strikeout. Jose Alvarado had a scoreless inning with 2 strikeouts. And Nick Nelson, like I told you, he gave up 3 hits in the bottom of the ninth, but not a high-pressure situation and not a lot of hard contact there. Just some of those bloop hits were getting past them. But a great win by the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm running through what the guys did at the dish. Rhys Hoskins, a 3-for-6 day with 2 home runs. That's pretty darn good. Alec Boehm, 2 for 5. Nick Castellanos was 3 for 5 with a home run, 3 runs scored, an RBI on that solo shot that he had back in the 3rd inning. And Nick Castellanos, something about Great American Ballpark, he just hits really well there, but he's starting to come around in general. He's batting .262 now, .307 on base percentage, and a .391 slugging percentage. That .391 slugging percentage is now good for, when you look at the lineup yesterday, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys above him in the lineup. So we'll call it 7th on the team, probably a little bit lower than that when you consider Kyle Schwarber. Yeah, I'd imagine he's 8th or 9th, but he would have not been considered for that about a month ago. He's coming around. And if Nick Castellanos can stay hot down the stretch, the Phillies are going to be a tough team to beat for anyone who's not the New York Mets or the Houston Astros or the Braves. So outside of those 3 teams, the Phillies should dominate the rest of the way. And the good news is today, well, they don't play one of those 3 teams. They have another game against the Cincinnati Reds. It's a series ender. It's at 12:35 p.m., so a nice day baseball game. And coming up next, we'll preview the action and why the Philadelphia Phillies have a golden opportunity for yet another sweep. And that means Mr. Broom can come back and hang out behind me. We'll discuss next on the next segment of today's Locked On Phillies. All right, let me talk to you about your liver health. When was the last time you got that checked out? No, you don't really, right? Well, did you know the key to sustainable weight loss is through your liver? The liver is the body's what's called metabolic furnace, which means it's responsible for getting rid of all the harmful toxins and igniting your fat-burning metabolism. If you want to lose weight, the best place to start is through your liver. But modern diets rich in unhealthy processed foods make your liver run slow. What you need to do? Well, you need to check out Liver Health Formula by Pure Health Research. It contains 8 liver-boosting super nutrients like turmeric, beet, artichoke extract, more good stuff like that, and it helps wake up a sluggish liver. Best of all, it makes it easier to maintain a healthy body weight long term. As a listener of our show, you could try Liver Health Formula risk-free today, and you can also get a free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. What's Curb Fit? Well, it's a safe and all-natural appetite suppressant, making it easy to say no to naughty foods. There are a couple of back-to-back home runs in yesterday's Phillies Reds game, I should say. This is like the back-to-back home run of weight loss through your liver. You take the Liver Health Formula, and it helps to speed up your liver. You take the Curb Fit as an appetite suppressant, and just like that, hey, you're losing weight. It's the perfect complement to Liver Health Formula. So go to getliverhelp.com/MLB to learn more. Again, that's getliverhelp.com/MLB to try Liver Health Formula completely risk-free and claim your free bottle of Curb Fit with your order. Again, go to getliverhelp.com/MLB now to get started. Okay, it's time to preview Game 3, the final game of this series with the Cincinnati Reds for the Philadelphia Phillies. And it's a pitching matchup that very much favors the Phillies, like all the ones we've seen in this series so far. Ranger Suarez takes the mound for the visiting team, your Philadelphia Phillies, and Nick Lodolo takes the mound for the home 9. Now, Suarez has an 8-5 record so far this year. Lodolo holds a 3-4 record, more the product of the team that he's on. Suarez, though, has a ERA significantly lower at 3.52 than Lodolo's 4.72. His whip of 1.32 isn't as low as it should be considering how good he's been lately. That's more of an indicator of the rough start to the season for Suarez. Lodolo, though, has a 1.66 whip, still higher than that. So about a batter and a half per inning reach base against Lodolo. Lodolo only has 47 2/3 inning pitch so far this year. Suarez already at 107 1/3, so maybe a little bit more wear and tear on Ranger, but he's gotten those better innings because he's the better pitcher. 103 hits given up for Suarez in 107 innings, 55 hits given up for Lodolo in 47 innings. So Lodolo giving up more hits than innings pitched. And as far as strikeouts, well, that's where Nick Lodolo makes his money. He's a lefty with good stuff. He struck out 64 in 47 2/3 innings. Meanwhile, Suarez has only struck out 89 in 107 innings. So Lodolo striking out over a batter per inning. The Phillies are going to have to look to just be a contact team today, get to him early, get that pitch count up, and take care of business. Lodolo also has only walked 24 batters so far this year. Suarez is 39 batters walked, more innings, of course, so those numbers are pretty comparable. And Suarez's 10 home runs given up to Nick Lodolo's 7 home runs given up, well, also comparable considering the number of innings thrown. So you look at it, and Ranger Suarez is clearly the better pitcher, but Nick Lodolo, you could argue, is the best pitcher that the Phillies will face in this series with the Cincinnati Reds. And the lefties, they can give the Phillies a little bit of trouble now with Kyle Schwarber still not ready to go, with Bryce Harper out of the lineup, with Brandon Marsh, I doubt being available to play for today's game. It didn't look like it after being removed from yesterday's game. It's going to be a righty-heavy lineup anyway, so this plays nicely for the Phillies that they're seeing a lefty. So advantage Philadelphia Phillies. Now we have a lineup for the Phillies today, and it's an interesting one. So I'll run you through this real quick as to how the Phillies are going to line up against Cincinnati. Gene Segura is leading off. So Bryson Stott getting a day. Gene Segura taking over in the leadoff spot for him. Rhys Hoskins batting second, who had 2 home runs last night. Alec Bohm batting third, playing third. JT Realmuto back in for Garrett Stubbs, who homered yesterday in his spot start for Realmuto. Realmuto catching, batting cleanup. Nick Castellanos, who had a home run yesterday and a couple of other hits. He's in the 5-hole. Edmundo Sosa, the hero from the first game of this series, who had a 3 RBI night in that one, is your shortstop, and he's batting sixth. Sixth. Sorry, can't count. Seventh is Derek Hall DHing. Eighth is Matt Vierling playing center. And Nick Maton, who played left field yesterday, well, he's getting the start in left field today. He's going to be batting ninth for you. Let's look at the career stats against Nick Lodolo. And there's literally one guy who's ever faced him before in this lineup. Edmundo Sosa is 1 for 3 all time with 2 RBIs. So I guess he had a 2 RBI hit, and he struck out in the other 2 at-bats. That's part of the worry for this, is that this team has not seen Nick Lodolo ever, really, anyone. So they'll talk to Edmundo Sosa, they'll have their scouting reports, but this is kind of flying blind a little bit, which can be dangerous. This is one of those trap games, I think. The Mets coming up, an off day tomorrow, travel day, you get to come back home. It's easy to throw these games away. Great teams go out and they beat bad opponents and they win today. Are the Phillies a great team? Well, I think so. And I think they've shown us this, but hey, another chance to show us today. So we'll see how that works out. Just so you know where the Reds are lining up: India, Fraley, Farmer, Reynolds, Almora, Aquino, Lopez, Barrero, and Romine. Austin Romine gets the start at catcher, a little bit more of a offensive option there, even though he's batting ninth, but a very similar lineup to what the Phillies have already been seeing. And the Reds don't really have anybody that you need to be focused on when it comes to guys at the dish. Joey Votto with a day off, which makes this team seem even less likely to beat the Phillies. And the ESPN analytics give the Phillies a 63.6% chance to win today, 36.4% chance that the Reds pull off the upset. I'm not worried about it. It's just the Phillies are going to have to focus and not allow themselves any let up. Every game counts down the stretch, with the Cardinals winning yesterday, with the Brewers winning yesterday. This is a little bit of a you got to keep pace even though you've been winning type of situation. So a very winnable game, and with 4 coming up against the Mets, those are going to be tough games despite the injury issues the Mets have been seeing. Win today. It's very important for the Phillies to finish off the sweep against the Reds. So we'll be zoned in on that and focused on the matinee. And you know what we're going to do after the matinees? I'm going to have a crossover with the guys over on Locked On Reds. So that'll be out as we recap what went on this series and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly from these 3 games it'll be, as the final game will have concluded by the time we're recording. So keep an eye on that for tomorrow's episode. But before all of that, let's just focus on, and this is us as fans and the Phillies as players, which they matter a lot more if we're being honest. But as fans, we got to do what we expect from our team, which is focus on the game at hand. Let's take care of business in Cincinnati against the Reds before we're worried about the Mets at Citizens Bank Park on Friday. Deal? Deal. Coming up and stepping off, we're going to wrap up today's episode. Now, stepping off, if you're not familiar, it's named that segment for like when you step off the rubber as a pitcher. Take a deep breath. Compose yourself, take a little bit of time away from the game so that when you step back in, you can zone in. Well, our time stepping away from the game, we always keep it baseball adjacent, and the Phillies hit a milestone yesterday, their 10,000th win in franchise history. I'll talk to you about the significance of that next as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Let me set the scene for you on a scenario. You're hanging out with some friends, putting back a few drinks, a few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end, people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you're going to get pulled over anyway, right? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up. You lose your license. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe you total your car. Maybe you kill someone. Now, listen, everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk, but the results are tragic and often deadly. Even if you do know the risks, it doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers to try and help save lives. And if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. You got to play it safe. You got to plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Listen, the Phils have a big series coming up with the New York Mets at home. A lot of people are going to be at the games, tailgating, having a good time. If the Phils win, it'll be a party. Make good decisions. Don't drive drunk. Don't do anything stupid. Drive sober or get pulled over. All right? Simple enough, easy to do. We can all do it. Be the great person that I know you are as a Philadelphia sports fan. Make the right decision. Okay, time for some celebrating and stepping off. The Philadelphia Phillies, with their win yesterday, have won their 10,000th game in franchise history. And listen, it's about time. We'll start with the bad, believe it or not. And this is a pretty well known fact, so you may already know this, but the Philadelphia Phillies have the most losses of any North American sports franchise across the major sports. They have 11,112, according to the most recently updated Wikipedia page, which was at the end of last season, losses. So no one else even close. They've got a couple hundred more than the Atlanta Braves, who were in second place the last time this list was updated. But there are 5 other teams besides the Phillies that are in that 10,000 loss category. Now, the Phillies joined that club. Well, they created that club. They were the first team in North American sports history to reach that bad benchmark back on, I believe it was July 15th of 2007. Since, though, the Braves, the Pirates, the Cubs, the Reds, who you just beat and added another loss to that column, and the St. Louis Cardinals have all reached the 10,000 loss mark. So there's a couple teams that have joined, and that gets you all squared away there. You're not as much of a laughingstock with that anymore, even though you are still the all-time leader in lost games in Major League Baseball history. But now you're the part of an exclusive 9-team club. Now you're 9th all-time as far as games won in Major League Baseball. The San Francisco Giants are first, the Dodgers second, the Cubs third, the Cardinals fourth, the Braves fifth, the Reds sixth, who you just saw, the Pirates seventh, the Yankees eighth. Believe it or not, the Yankees are that far down. But now your Philadelphia Phillies become the 9th team in Major League history to have a franchise that has won 10,000 or more games. It's incredible. So from back in what, 1860 it was? Let's see when the first season, 1883 was the first season with the Philadelphia Quakers. And actually, I believe they played 7 seasons as the Philadelphia Quakers. And then in 1890, it was the Philadelphia Phillies, but you still count the games from the Quakers because it's the same franchise. Well, since then, there's been a lot of baseball in between. I wrote an article today for 97.5 The Fanatic's website, which you can go check out at 975thefanatic.com. And it was basically talking about, I think this number, not only is it nice to show the success of the franchise, only 8 other teams have ever won more games in Major League Baseball, but it shows the perseverance of us as Philadelphia fans. We soldiered through 10,000 losses before any other team had to experience it. Any other fan base had to experience it. We soldiered through 10,000 wins now. And this is a team that has always been supported through thick and thin. Hasn't always been good times. Lost over 11,000 games by this point. Hasn't always been bad times. Got 2 World Series titles and 10,000 wins. And while only 2 World Series titles with all those wins feels like it should be a little bit more, like they should have run into more championships. Think back to 1993, think back to 2009. But despite that, this is a fan base that prides itself on loyalty. And the fact that the Phillies haven't moved, they haven't changed their name since they haven't changed their name since 1890 when they became the Philadelphia Phillies. It's proof that we stick to our own here in Philadelphia. We are loyal. We stick through thick and thin. Sometimes we're going to boo the ever-living you-know-what out of you. And when you deserve it, we're going to cheer you. But this is a compliment as much to the fan base as it is to the franchise. And when you reach milestones like this, even if it's a random game in August against the Cincinnati Reds that was 11-4 and never really all that close, this is still a great moment for the Philadelphia Phillies franchise, and we should celebrate it as fans and think back on the wonderful moments that have gotten us here. I've seen thousands of wins in my lifetime, and I'm only 27. I'm sure there's you out there listening that have seen like 5,000 wins if you've been a lifelong Phillies fan or up there in like your 50s or 60s. So it's just a moment to reflect on the good times, the bad times, everything that got us here. And a cheers to the Philadelphia Phillies organization, making it to their 10,000th win. Hopefully, there's 10,000 more before they leave the city or something happens or anything like that. Hopefully, we've got a lot more baseball in this franchise. But a moment to cheers the Philadelphia Phillies, congratulate the franchise, congratulate the fan base for sticking around for all 10,000 of those wins and all 11,000 plus of those losses. And hopefully this season is even more special now that that milestone is hit. That's stepping off. That's all the time I've got for you today. Again, a crossover with Locked On Reds, the two guys from Locked On Reds. We will talk to them later today, and that episode will be out tomorrow. So you can check that out post-game for the Game 3 of Cincinnati Reds, Philadelphia Phillies. But that's all the time I've got for you for today. I want to thank you for making Locked On Phillies your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Now make your second listen Locked On MLB. Paul Francis Sullivan, he just hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. Congratulations to Sully on that. He's been doing it because he's great at covering Major League Baseball. He's got historical stories. He's got his own personal experiences. He travels around. He knows the league inside and out. Check it out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. That's Locked On MLB. All right, that's all the time I've got for you today. I got to go get ready for this matinee game between the Cincinnati Reds and Philadelphia Phillies, and hopefully another win, and you will see Mr. Broom in the crossover that we have for you tomorrow. I will talk to you then on Locked On Phillies.